What a time we have today.
What a time we have today. Good to see you, first of all.
You too.
Yeah, I feel like we're always so busy.
No,
we just
literally.
go like this, you know?
What is up, guys? Today is a very cool day. We get to highlight my good friend Ermias.
What's going on, y'all? Tehkia. Appreciate you being here. This is an honor.
course.
I'm Ermias. I am a fifth year. I'm also graduating this quarter, so super pumped for that. And outside from school, I'm studying manufacturing engineering. I like to host my own podcast that's on Spotify and YouTube called The Black Experience.
So I guess let's get into it. Like, you want to share more about yourself? I guess like background, anything that's like popping out to you.
I was born. I don't even think I ever told you this, but I was born in Asmara, Eritrea.
Nah, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah,
That's
so
news to me.
yeah, most people don't even know where Eritrea is, and then I bring up Ethiopia, and then they're like, "Oh, okay." I kind of have like a gist of where that is, but small country right off the coast of the Red Sea. I was born there. My dad had came here in the '90s through a program for students that were performing well. So he got his visa, and then he helped my mom and I get our visa, and my mom and I came here when I was three and a half in Seattle. Pretty much grew up in Seattle. I would say South Seattle, moved up to North Seattle. All three of my siblings born here. And yeah, I mean, I have a lot of that Eritrean pride, and I want to take that engineering aspect and go back home one day and maybe do some projects or whatever.
How would you say that has like shaped like your experience, like not just like academically, but just like in life, coming from like obviously a completely different country and like learning to navigate life here?
It wasn't easy. I will say this. The first few weeks of coming to Seattle, I was throwing up. I mean, I was sick. I was very sick because it's a very different climate in Eritrea. And so when I came here, I was confused. Like, I was like, telling my mom, I was like, I need to go back home. This is just not it. It was raining too as soon as we got here.
For sure.
And so it was just a new climate. A funny thing is, I never took like a ESL class, English Second Language class. I learned English from my like kindergarten classmates. My parents pretty much threw me in school. I was in preschool for a bit, and then in kindergarten, I knew some English, but I didn't know it fully. My parents were worried. And so they were talking to the teacher. They were like, hey, what are we going to do with Ermias? Like we're not confident he might learn it. And they're like, no, don't worry, he'll learn it. And eventually, after like a few months, I was pretty much, if not like a month and a half, 2 months, I was pretty much good to go.
Damn.
And started speaking English, yeah.
Learn that quick.
It's crazy.
I mean, I guess we kind of touched on like your academics a little bit, like starting off like coming here and learning English, and that's impressive, by the way, like to learn English in that amount of time, because there's so many people that are like English is like a really hard language to learn.
Yeah.
But how would you say like the transition from like elementary school, middle school, high school, and like to Western, like what was that like trajectory like for you?
That's a good question, Tehkia. Man, so much happened, in just that period of time that you were mentioning. Middle school was very tough for me, just because it was a lot. Growing up in South Seattle, it wasn't always the safest. Like, we lived in a low-income neighborhood. Yesler Terrace, shout out to Yesler Terrace. I remember the school bus we used to take was always kind of like, I would always sit like right behind, if not a few rows back from the bus driver, just because we had the worst kids in our school bus. Like, they would be throwing a mess, like, throwing food, whatever. We got into like a few accidents and stuff like that where the bus driver was trying to back up and stuff. Like, it was very tough, like on the way to middle school, a little bit of elementary. But overall, I would say, went to Washington Middle School, went to Leshai Elementary, and then went to Washington Middle School afterwards. Yeah, grew up there. So like Jackson Street, the little Fran's, the bakery shop.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Oh my gosh, in the summer days, we'd always like open the windows during like the late period classes, and we'd always smell like the jelly.
Smells so good in the summer. Oh my god.
And so that's like one of the highlights I remember from middle school. But middle school was tough academically for me, but it was also a period of time where I was very shy, and I knew that, but I knew that I wanted to express myself more. It's just I had a hard time just because when I was growing up, they were like, you got to focus on your school. You got to be serious about your school. So I would do my school. I would not participate in anything because my parents were like, here, do your school, come home, take care of your siblings. That lasted throughout high school up until my senior year. And because of that, I struggled a bit to make friends. Like, I had friends. I was very social, but I had trouble like bringing out that real Ermias, outside. But yeah, it wasn't until like my senior year, I would say, that I started to develop that kind of confidence of, hey, let me actually be involved with this, with that, with the multicultural club, with whatever, and that identity start to come out a bit.
Because I know personally, me and like balancing all the things and such, like it's always like, it's truly like a challenge. Like, how would you say that you have kind of found that balance between like family life and also like academics, school, work, creative stuff, and like passion projects? Like, how would you say that you navigate all of that?
There was a moment of where I kind of realized, I was like, we all kind of have to go through the fire of life and that busyness. There was a point, I don't know when it was, but it was just like everyone is just so busy, and they, if I try to hang out with a friend, everyone says I'm busy. And I'm like, okay, that term's never going to go away. People are always going to be busy. I kind of just like accepted that I'm going to be busy, that I'm going to be tired, I'm going to have to do all these things. And once I accepted that, I was kind of just like, okay, number one thing I need to do, what's in my control, is time management. I can control my time. So I've always, since I was like 14, I've always had like a little calendar where I would write out like, okay, school-wise, I'm going to do these assignments, and then sports-wise, I'm going to do this today. And then every day, I would just have that in, every day. And then I realized, I was like, okay, that's good, but now I'm starting to use my laptop more in college. So let me get a Google Calendar. So now I got 2 calendars, one on paper and then one on Google Calendar. And so that helped me with my time management, I would say. That helped. And I would say another thing is probably just realizing how short life is. Like when COVID hit, oh my gosh, Tehkia, my mental health was like down bad, honestly. Because again, we had 6 months. I was class of 2019, so we had 6 months before COVID. And then they promised like we'd be coming back in spring after 2 weeks, and 2 weeks became
4 and 6 and
so long, almost 2 years. And so I think over COVID, I realized, I was like, man, life is short, college is short. I better make the best use of my time. And so I want to get involved with as many things I can.
Definitely, you've done that.
I tried my best,
I remember like when you first started your podcast, and like a lot of people in the community hold your podcast like very near and dear, because I don't think that we have opportunities like this or opportunities like your podcast where we get to kind of like talk about our experiences, especially like academically, because I think a lot of like Black collegiate students especially, but just Black students in general, don't typically have that platform to kind of talk about the real things that be going on when you're trying to navigate academia and just interpersonal things, because it's like, not only are we like Black students, but also it's like we're growing adults and we're learning and having to kind of navigate this like bigger world. And how would you say like your experience has been in that department? And like, would you say that has been kind of what has fueled you to create this podcast and also keep it going for as long as it's been going?
I want to say, first of all, shout out to you, because you're part of the inspiration for why I started my podcast, actually. Because so freshman year, I still remember the first BSU meeting me and my 2 other roommates came to. They were playing like this Finish the Lyric game, and it's like the highlight of my week. I'm like, I love the event that they did at the rec. I love, honestly, my classes were good, but that just stood out. Freshman year, I wanted to be on the board, Tehkia, so badly. It's just, they were like, if you want to be on the board, not only do you have to write a speech, but you also have to get up in front of everybody and do it. And that, I was like, no. That shyness was still in me freshman year. And so once COVID happened, I ran for retention and outreach officer, because it was online. I was like, oh, I don't want to
you don't know how to do it.
You know what I mean? So the inspiration for the podcast really came when the following year, after I was BSU president, I was like, okay, being BSU president is probably not the best, just because I got into my major. I'm in engineering now, and it's getting busy. I looked around, and I saw all the Black individuals and their creative work, when I was like, what if I can create a platform where all these people's journeys, success, coming to Western, navigating Western, can be translated and then heard to like future freshmen down the line, or freshmen from this year or whatever. Or we could go back and be like, oh, check out Nafi's story, check out Tehkia's story, whatever. In my bedroom, literally just off my phone. And then from there, I started to take it more seriously. And people were like, hey, this is actually pretty cool. I was like, really? And so I was like, okay, let me keep doing this. And now here we are, doing it on video. But that was the inspiration.
No, it's so crazy to think about, like, because even our interview, like, sitting in the BSC, like, on your phone, like, just having our conversation and, like, to see where you are now. Just that, like, progression of, like, seeing all that happen has just been so cool.
It's a crazy progression.
Yeah.
The audio quality too.
It's so, it's so,
more crisp now,
It's very crisp. Yeah, it's like, and I feel like that just speaks to like the amount of time and like effort and care that you put into this podcast, and it definitely like has shown as, time has gone on.
Yeah.
But also I think like you bring up an important point that I feel like has come up in a lot of my conversations is like BSU, like, especially that you're coming back from COVID and even the year of COVID where everything is online, like I feel like it really tests you in a way I don't think a lot of people speak about, at least like, I feel like we try to keep it cute and like, oh, BSU is such a fun time, but I think from the leadership point of things, we don't necessarily speak on how like trying that actually is. I mean, I feel like we have similar things of like going from like shyer, like more introverted people to like now we're coming up on our like last few months here, and it's we're I feel like very comfortable in our skin, and I would say maybe a little bit extroverted, maybe a little bit.
DJ Tehkia, you know what I mean?
So it's like, yeah, we got some things going on outside of, but how would you say that has like kind of, I guess, changed you as a leader and like, I guess, forged you into the person that you are today?
I kind of, again, it goes back to when I was saying like, I kind of just embraced that the fire that we all have to go through and the busyness, and I was like, it's so many different personalities, you know what I mean? Like some people are more quieter, some people are louder. How do I navigate that to make sure that we get things done? Those kind of moments kind of forge me to step up and lead, and the confidence goes up after that.
So what would you say some of your proudest accomplishments have been here at Western?
I would definitely say getting into my major was definitely a key moment. I still remember getting that email that I was accepted into manufacturing engineering. I mean, that was a big moment for me. But I think specifically with engineering, I think we've done so many different projects, and we're doing a whole senior project right now. I can't go into detail because they literally make you sign an NDA and stuff like that, but it's something cool that we're doing, and I think every project, every class that I've done that I literally would come into it, I'm like, man, I don't know how I'm going to pass this class. This class is just tough. The project is tough. I don't know what he's saying. He's talking about calculus that I haven't taken in years, But any kind of project like that, it just makes me super proud of myself and all the people that helped me also get to this point, because especially my parents. My gosh, I mean, my dad, I still remember him always being a big inspiration. He loves math. Like, he loves math, and he'd always push me to go into math, to make sure that I'm doing math right, so that I'm like, I don't know if this is ever pay off, and now I'm like, the math is coming back into some of my engineering classes. So I would say those are some key accomplishments that I'm definitely proud of.
A common theme of just like trial by fire has been coming up a lot, and I know we've talked specifically like about BSU and like kind of like a more concentrated version of that, but how would you say like Western as a whole has kind of, I guess, brought that fire out of you or shaped you?
I remember the first day I came to Western really was orientation with my friend, and my dad dropped us off very early, like 7:30 in the morning, and the whole thing started like at 10. So we were just walking around. It was cold, so we went to the view, and we're looking out to like the Bellingham Bay, and then we see the banner of Western that says "Make Waves." And I'm like, "Make waves? What do they mean by that? Make waves?" And that kind of just like kept ringing in my ear. I was like, "Okay, make waves, make waves, make waves academically, make waves socially, outside of the class. They probably mean everything." And so I pretty much, again, like, during COVID, I was like, I want to make the best use of my time. And that term, that slogan kind of stuck with me a bit. Here's the thing. There's clearly not a lot of people that look like me here. There's very few. And if I do want to find people that look like me, I usually got to go in the VU, in the MCC.
Put in extra work for sure.
Yeah, you got to do that. But again, Tehkia, it kind of just like, you got to work with what you have. And it's like, in the 4 or 5 years that we're here, we're not going to be able to change the diversity by like a crazy amount, right? Maybe a little bit, and we could do what we can. And I kind of just like adopted that mentality. I was like, hey, I have nothing against, white people. I have nothing against people that don't look like me. It makes it harder to connect, right? It may be more work to build a friendship with someone that's not Eritrean, for example, or something like that, sure. But I'll do it. I'll take that step, because we all have our own unique journeys. Like, I didn't choose to be Eritrean or be this skin color or whatever. I just believe people got to work with what they have, and they work with that, and they make the best use of that. And in their time that they're there, they try to bring as many resources, as many things they can to better it for people down the line. It could be for their kids, for their grandkids, whatever. I just thought that was just my mentality. And everywhere I went, I try to put on a smile as much as I can, I don't really believe in, making enemies and stuff like that. Like, look, if what COVID has taught me too during that time, I was like, I'm gonna put myself out there, and if someone wants to accept me, bueno, let's do it. Let's have fun, let's be friends, whatever. But if someone doesn't want to accept me, that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, not everyone can be my friend. Not everyone can be accepting of me. But I'll put myself out there. I'll work with what I have and go from there. And again, that sounds really good, but it took me a minute to get to that kind of thinking mentalities, Do you relate to that by any chance, or do you have a different kind of thinking?
Yes and no. I mean, I think Western has definitely like taught me a lot just about myself and how I do navigate kind of being like, which I hate to put it this way, but I think it is like the real way to put it, like being a minority on this campus. Also like dealing with my intersecting identities and like learning how to navigate that as well. I think I'm very comfortable in myself and very, comfortable in my environment at this point in life, but I still recognize like, I mean, yeah, like I know like not everyone is for me and not everyone's gonna, be wanting the same things I want, but...
Like specifically, like, a general want need, like, what's an example of that you...
For example, like, courtesy, like, okay, like, if I come to you, we're gonna, like, be courteous, of each other and each other's kind of personalities or, like, what,
Right.
I feel like we have that, like, camaraderie at this point, but, so I would say, like, that's, like, a general, like, basic necessity communication type stuff.
Sure.
But I think that there's definitely like overarching things that I think this campus as a whole can like work towards to actually continue to build a campus that does foster like inclusivity and community and diversity and all these things that are kind of like the university is advertised for. I would like to see like more steps actually kind of coming closer to that. Do you have any plans? Because I know, like, we do have, like, a pretty strong alumni network. I know that you probably would want to, like, continue and, like, work with, like, the coming Black Student Union boards and whatnot.
Yeah.
What could you see, like, that relationship looking like in the future?
And that's if they want my help, too, right?
Yeah, obviously,
Like, if they want an old head, I guess I'll be an old head at that point.
I know. We're getting to that point,
We're getting to that point, aren't we?
So we've talked a little bit about post-grad, what that's kind of going to look like for you. But also I think it's important to, I guess, talk about your relationships moving forward, because I think in both of our time here, we formed, like, a lot of very long-lasting and, like, impactful relationships with, like, not just other students, but staff, faculty, admin. Ton of people. So who would you say is, like, someone or a group of people that have kind of, like, impacted your experience here at Western in a positive light?
Yeah, for sure. I want to first shout out to Lucas G. Singer, professor, I should say, for this quarter. I'm taking a management class with him right now, and the Black and Brown Men's Resiliency Group is a group that he leads that I've been a part of since early 2022, for a minute, almost 2 years now. Yeah. And so when I saw his name on Web For You, I was like, shoot, you know what I mean? Like, I wanna take him and take his class and stuff. So shout out to him. I think he's just been very welcoming to me, you know what I mean? And it feels weird. It feels different and more welcoming too when you know your professor before you had your class. Yeah. So shout out to him. I want to shout out Russ Whitby. Russ Whitby was actually a Western alumni. He ran for city council, and so shout out to him. I think he's been a big mentor of mine. And then shout out to Muse. Muse was one of my mentors my freshman year, and so he I believe also did manufacturing engineering too, and so he was a big role model in that, and just leading me and making sure that I can succeed as best as I can. So a lot more shout outs. If I'm forgetting any names, my bad, but there's a lot of people freshman year that helped me, set my, foot down and help me, navigate through resources around campus that I can access. So.
Oh, it's a long list.
I'm sure you got a long list too.
A very long list, yeah. Also, Lucas, great, and like his lore is crazy. Like just talking to him is so hilarious.
His shoe game goes crazy too.
That too. He pulled out the cement fours the other day. I was like, okay, all right. I didn't know you had game.
And he's
like
casual
that.
about it too. He's
real
like,
casual.
Yeah, these are cement fours.
No,
it's nothing
literally.
too crazy.
Like, I'm like, okay, like, and he's always like very humble and casual. But we're nearing the end here. This is so like sad.
Does it have to end? It gotta end?
Unfortunately, I fear we got to wrap it up.
homework and stuff like that.
I know what I'm saying. Life outside of these doors is like...
We're almost there, though. Less than 2 months. So.
Literally, yeah. Nearing the end to multiple things, it seems like.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I feel like what other way to end it than to kind of turn the tables a little bit. I know you usually ask this at the end of your podcast. I know I've answered it before when we had our podcast. But what advice do you have for your younger self?
Multiple pieces of advice I would say to myself. This is both to my younger self and both to the younger generation. Number 1, look fear dead in the eye and face it. Go through it. Like, just kill it as much as you can. If you feel any kind of fear, obviously towards doing something good, face it and go at it, because regret is gonna hurt more than rejection. Like, you're gonna probably be in more pain if you didn't do something that you really wanted to do, or go for a position you really wanted, or go for a class or whatever it is, than being rejected and having to try again. I would say mobilize your network. That's probably one of the best pieces of advice I've ever heard. We all know so many people, and we've got a lot of people on our contact list that we know. When I say use those people, I'm not meaning in like a bad way, but I'm saying utilize those people, utilize those friendships to, build connections, because someone could know someone that you could, let's say you really want to work somewhere, that person could know someone that works there that can help you get that job or whatever. So mobilize your network. Take some time to find out like who you are, like who your identity is, what you stand for, what you believe in. Because once you know that, and once you're confident in yourself and your identity, then you don't put it out there in the world. So then whatever happens in the world doesn't impact you, right, internally. So that's what I would say.
So we've talked a lot about community and the impacts of that. But I think there's also a lot to say about kind of the different changes, since we have had the opportunity to like grow as people here, and also just, I guess, witness a lot of different changes and differences throughout that time. So what would you say are some that you've like noticed that have been, I guess, like nice to see?
It's a great question. I would definitely say the MCC is definitely one of the big changes. I remember, so that first BSU meeting that we had, it took place in Miller Hall, like kind of like in the little middle area study lounge where it's kind of outside in Miller Hall. So they used that space just for that meet, and then after that, it was all the way in the MCC. And I still remember walking into that, I was like, I don't know where I'm going. I see a bunch of people here. My 2 roommates were with me, walked in. I was like, okay, I'm nervous. A lot of people are talking. And then we played this speed dating game where everyone was talking to each other or whatever. Every time I step into that space, I'm like, we had our first BSU meeting there. Tehkia and I and the team used to meet right there in that room, I had a funny moment there or whatever. I fell there. I tripped over that chair or whatever. Those kind of things, Yeah. It's just like those memories throughout the years come up when you step into space. So and this is not even just like in the MCC, like even in the engineering building, I still remember my first class I had freshman year there. It was upstairs. It just seems so surreal. I was like, oh my gosh, look at all these engineering like artworks and stuff they've pasted, all these designs that they did. And I'm like, man, will I ever get there? And now I step in and I'm like, yeah, that was my project that my team and I did. This is a Lego car that we made. This is the 3D printing. We know how to work that. And we help other freshmen now. So campus just seems a little bit smaller in the sense that like I know where things are. And you walk with like that confidence about yourself. So, yeah.
What would you say that some of your favorite moments have been on campus, or just in general, like just moments that you just got the giggles, you got the goofies? Like.
Okay, let's go. One that instantly comes into my mind is the last BSU meeting that we had outside on Old Main Lawn. If you remember Tehkia, we had a bunch of, it was like kind of like a paint and chat, paint and social, where everyone had a paintbrush and stuff. So if you remember, it was kind of cloudy. And we were all kind of just painting and stuff, and I was like, mingling, whatever. It wasn't really an official meeting, right? It was like, just come in, just paint.
It was just a vibe, basically.
It's just a vibe, right? Yeah. And so I start painting, and I'm like, I'm not an artist, but let me see what I can do. So I believe if I'm not mistaken, I start drawing my friend. I'm like, let me get your head in there, your hair in there.
Okay, Picasso.
Yeah, like Picasso, stick figure Picasso, So I'm like drawing this out, and it starts raining. So, okay, it starts raining, and we're like, oh, shoot, it's been an hour, guys. Thank you for coming to BSU. We'll see y'all next year. Have a good summer. And I don't notice that my painting is starting to kind of, like, the paint is starting to drip a bit. And so my friend's face is just, like, smooshed in with the hair, with the curls that I had for him. It was a mess. It was a mess.
No, that was a funny time. I remember we closed that out. Like, we played Love by Keisha Cole, and we were just singing
Were you a DJ?
No, that was pre-DJ.
That was pre-DJ Tehkia.
No, we were like screaming Love by Keisha Cole as it's raining, and it felt like so dramatic and unserious, but it was a funny time.
Such a vibe, though.
Yeah, it was great, and a lot of people came to that. I think that was like the most we had that spring. So that was like a really fun time.
This is the way we want to end it, you know what I mean?
For sure.
It's been a stressful year, so let's go out with a bang on this. But I'm sure your painting was pretty tight too.
By the end, it actually ended up looking pretty cool. Like, there was like rain, paint, mixture.
Oh, so the rain helped.
Yeah.
It helps you.
I was like, okay, I still have it. I think it's like at home somewhere. Well, we've officially reached the end of our podcast, and we are so appreciative of you guys for sitting here and listening to me and Ermias just yap for a good amount of time. And yeah, we hope you guys continue to tune in. We will unfortunately not be here any longer, but there's definitely so many more students with diverse background and diverse stories that you guys can tune into that will come after us. So please just tune in.